Welcome to the Agency Uplift podcast, the show all about the unique experience of growing a digital agency, the ups, the downs, the challenges, the learnings. I'm your host, Sean Lang, agency owner of over 7 years and co-founder of Social Commerce Club. And today I'm joined by Chase Clymer, co-founder of Electric Eye. At Electric Eye, they help e-commerce brands sell more with strategic design and development. Chase, it's great to have you on.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to lie to your audience about how easy it is to do this. Let's go.
If anyone's listened to this podcast so far, yeah, we don't lie. It's warts and all, and it's talking about the real stuff that, of course, us agency owners like to lie to each other's faces at networking events and say everything's great all the time, when in reality, like half the business is on fire, and we're just trying to ignore it right now. So
Yeah, let's just throw your whole game plan off the rails at the beginning. That I just got back from Auditions, and I saw so many partners, be it on the SaaS side or other agency folks there. They're like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I just couldn't articulate in a way that didn't sound like a therapy session how it's going.
oh man, I feel that. Well, I'm sure we'll get there, but let's start with your origin story. Why Chase? Why did you start an agency? I'm sure you've
Because
asked yourself this question many times.
as we kind of already got into in the pre-show, being in a band didn't pay the bills. So
Know it well.
yeah, so I was always like a computer nerd, and so it was really hard to do. Like my first passion and like what I went to college for before I dropped out was photography. And I did do some like cool stuff there. I did some touring work. I shot some covers for some magazines, did some work for Macy's for some like artist campaign. But touring and photography were like super hard to make work at the same time. When I was like back when I was in a band. But so I started to get more into digital. And so I did that the whole time we were touring. And then when we kind of hung up the hat on the band. None of that made sense. One of the band, we didn't break up, but we broke up. It's semantics. So when that was over, I had a bunch of like freelance clients, and I had kind of gotten more and more into that world of like freelancing and all that stuff. And then about a year after I had stopped touring, while I was all right, now I got to go back in time. I met my business partner while I was in the band. We designed my band's first 2 albums together. The album art was like projects we worked on together. It's the first time I ever met him. We were working on the album art for my band. And then so we always stayed in touch. He was in Columbus, where I'm from. And so when he left his startup, which was one of the first bigger brands on Shopify, um, when he left, he was starting to freelance, and I was like, "Hey, dude, you're making all these mistakes. Like, let me help you." And so I'm like teaching him like the ropes with freelancing. And meanwhile, he's like, "Hey, like I'm helping all these brands move to this awesome platform called Shopify. Like, do you know anything about it? Like, you know how to do, advertising and marketing and some of the more strategic stuff. Like, I'm just making these things look cool." So we started tag teaming on all these just projects from his network and whatnot. And it just kind of spiraled out of control from there.
Oh man, it is the classic agency story of either I'm going to freelance or me and a friend, we're going to freelance together, and suddenly down the road you're like, oh, whoops, we built an agency.
Yeah, I guess I really want to just at the top just say how lucky I was to have stumbled into this business with my business partner. It was definitely like a 1 in 100 chance that we were the right fit to be partners. And I think that is something, a lot of younger folks in the agency game really need to know. Like, just to have a partner, to say you have a partner, isn't like the goal. The goal is to have a yin to your yang, someone that has strengths where you have weaknesses. And Sean and I have a really good division of power there.
Absolutely. I understand that dichotomy very well as well with like Jordan, my partner. When he and I first started, we were and still are polar opposites. And the stuff that he handled, I was terrible at, and the stuff that I handled, he was terrible at. And together we kind of made one complete person who could execute on on the things that the agency needed. Um, well, that's really cool. And so, at what point did you guys feel like you were actually an agency and not just a couple of people freelancing?
3 years after we started the agency, probably. It was just like a name with some emails attached to it for the longest time. And it was honestly, I think that like the major shift was after we read a couple of books. The first one being we read Profit First by Mike Michalowicz.
Hell yes.
And then we also read Traction by Gino Wickman.
Hmm.
And then Built to Sell by
That
oh
guy.
man.
I
Yeah,
can't remember his name either, but I listen to his podcast sometimes too.
John Warlow.
Yes.
So those three books, I would actually position it first. I would read Built to Sell first. One, it's the best one of them all to read. It's like it's an allegory, it's a story, it's easy to follow. That one's awesome. So read Built to Sell first, and then uh either Profit First or Traction. Traction is a slog, man. It's a boring businessy business book, but it'll change your how your brain works about SOPs and delegation, and the EOS operating system is a fantastic operating system. We mutilated it to hell to run it for our business because it's kind of written more for bigger companies.
You kind of
Uh,
have to. I mean, we had that similar experience too. Yeah.
yeah. But those once we read those three books and we decided like, oh, yeah, we're just a bunch of goofballs masquerading as we're just a bunch of freelancers masquerading as an agency right now. And then we change it to like, all right, we're an actual business. We want to be profitable. We want to niche down. We want to take this seriously, and we want to scale this to the to wherever we want to take it. So that was around year 3.
It's funny that you should say year 3 because that's not the first time year 3 has come up when I ask this question. It seems like that seems to be that almost seems to be like the freelance to agency maturity arc in a way where you're like, okay, now we've paid our dues, we made some of the mistakes, we've actually built some of the structure. Okay, this thing is actually real now.
Yeah, I think it's either at that point you decide whether or not you want to keep doing it. If you've got shiny object syndrome that you're like well beyond the expiration date to move on to something else that seems better.
Totally.
Um, and in those 3 years, what we had kind of still done is we had learned, kind of what we were good at, what we were bad at. We had learned kind of the power of niching down immediately, especially the power of the Shopify ecosystem and partnerships. Like those were all like a lot of lessons. Like so, the funniest, none of us worked at an agency prior, uh, which is kind of funny now that I'm thinking about it. Is like when we're like hiring, it's like we make sure they have agency experience now. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like really funny that just thinking about that full circle. But um yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot of figuring it out, and ChatGPT didn't exist back then, which is I think it
Isn't that
makes things easier, but also I think you get that false sense of security these days that like, oh, I can do anything.
Yeah, I mean, you can do anything as long as ChatGPT can come up with a half-baked idea that sounds like a good idea until you implement it and you realize, hey, wait a minute, this isn't quite all there. Okay, so that was 3 years. How long has the agency been around total?
2016.
Since 2016. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so 9 years ish. So you've been around six. You've been around as an official agency, let's say, for 6 years. What are some of the struggles that come to mind that you've overcome, and what did that look like?
Hiring is extremely difficult. I'll just list some things out and then we can dive in wherever you'd like to dive in, Sean. Because a few things came to mind. So there's hiring, uh, niching down and like what our service offering kind of looks like. That's always in flux. Sales is a giant pain in the ass, specifically lead gen. Um, and then just dealing with people is constantly unrewarding.
Yeah, the people part of the agency business is definitely the hardest part, but also the one thing that I say about agencies is it's literally just people all the way down. It's people hiring people to work with people. Like
Yeah.
that's literally all we've got is people. That's it.
I'm sure I'll
Okay.
interject in 5 minutes with another answer to that question.
Yeah. Don't think too hard because there's gonna be no shortage. Okay, so you mentioned hiring and then niching down. Two things that I talk about a lot because I think that they are super critical, and the other things obviously are important too. But what did niching down look like for you? Because that is something that I do a lot of discoveries with smaller agencies, and if there's one thing that they just don't want to do ever is niche down. They just want to say yes, 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 yes to everything and everyone, and then they also say it's impossible to do sales. And I say, well, it's because you don't really offer anything. Um, but that's beside the point. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that looked like for you?
Yeah, shout out to Brennan Dunn and Double Your Freelancing for answering this question directly in person at a conference he did like a decade ago. So before Electric Eye, I had like a jack of all trades, master of none agency named. It was just me, right? So I was like just a one person agency saying yes to everything, right? And so as I was building that, I started to understand the concept of niching down a bit more. And the one thing that Brennan said, which I think needs to be the first thing that is said to these younger entrepreneurs slash like if you want to start an agency or just do a service business in general, because this is not just agency world. This is like if you want to build a handyman business or you want to build like a landscaping business, it's like niching down is very, very powerful to grow your clientele through referrals and being good at and known at something. Anyways, so he said you don't need to say no to everything that's coming in. Just change your positioning on your website or on your outbound marketing, or just build a landing page about things you're really good at and you want to explore niching down into. So in practice, what that looks like, what people hear when they say like, oh, like you should niche down, they're like, you need to say no to everything that isn't the thing that you want to do. And it's like, no, if you have capacity, do whatever the heck that's landing in your lap. That's perfectly fine. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to transition from being a generalist into a specialist, which has a million rewards that come along with doing that kind of transition. But the thing I always like say when I'm talking to younger folks is just like, look, do you want to be like a generalist or a specialist? Here's an example. Your roof is leaking. Who are you calling? You're calling a roofer. You're not calling a general contractor, right? So take this into whatever the heck your service industry realm is. If you have unprofitable TikTok ads, are you going to go to we do everything agency.com or Social Commerce Club, where they're the number one TikTok agency on the internet? Shout out Sean and his partner, Jordan. They did not pay me to do that. I just felt like being a nice guy.
Perfect. Go on.
Yeah. So niching is extremely powerful. So what that looked like for Electric Eye, I had already had this experience. And so when I came into Electric Eye, I knew we wanted to be an e-commerce agency. One, just the concept of being closer to the money felt better for me for uh, kind of leaning more into value pricing and getting premium fees. If you're making a business more money and you can directly prove it, that's a great place to be. So e-commerce was always where we wanted to be. Honestly, within 3 months to 6 months of Electric Eye being real, we niched down even further into specifically Shopify exclusively. We didn't want to touch any other platform. So uh, now we're just kind of like doing stuff for Shopify, which was like we were doing marketing, we were doing advertising, we were doing design, we were doing development. We actually kind of like just a complete pivot away, like to give you some background. We started as Facebook ads for Shopify stores was kind of the main service line. But then as the agency had evolved and we got better and we got smarter at what we were doing, during the pandemic, we decided to stop doing marketing and advertising and focus exclusively on design and development because those were our favorite clients and those were our most profitable projects and the most tenured clients. Marketing and advertising clients, to my experience, I don't know if Sean or anyone out there that has a marketing or advertising agency now, and maybe they just did it better than we did. I don't know. We had great results, by the way, but they felt more fickle. They felt more mean. I don't know. Like they were just you had to constantly prove that you were making the money, which was kind of
For
draining.
for for paid social specifically?
Yeah,
I mean, that is the general experience. Yeah, it's paid social has become the thing that everybody knows they need, but they don't want. And so you're constantly trying to get them back to wanting it again.
yeah. So during the pandemic, we stopped doing marketing, we stopped doing advertising, and just doubled down on basically front end design in the Shopify ecosystem. So basically, all we do these days is like migrate brands to Shopify, redesign them when they're on Shopify, and if they have the velocity to do it, like we're doing actual conversion rate optimization. And so all of that is just strategic design. All of that is in an effort to improve the front end experience of the store. And this like fun byproduct of niching down is just the power of saying no. It just you don't take as many calls that are bad fits. You can immediately recognize what's a bad fit. And if it's a bad fit for you, it like, also gives you this awesome opportunity to refer it to someone that could do it better than you, which
Yep.
then opens up this monster whole the partnerships is this wild west ecosystem that you need to learn and live in partner in the agency world. But like the more you can send work elsewhere, the more it will come back your way. It's just straight up the law of reciprocity, whatever that word
100%.
is.
Reciprocity.
Yes.
That I'm absolutely loving this journey to niching down that you're sort of explaining, because most people think that it's a one-time event. It's like you niche down and you're done. It's like, well, no, it's
There's
iterative.
stages.
It's
Yeah.
bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. I love hearing about how you started out doing Facebook ads for Shopify stores, and now you're offering completely different services, and you've gone really, really hard on the Shopify niche.
I mean,
That's
every
super cool.
year I try to stop offering something. And I also like, I wish that we could I wish we could niche down even further, maybe into a vertical or into like maybe a specific like sub service offering. Um, but luckily we've been around long enough and we are actually good at a few different things to where we don't necessarily need to do it. But, if I knew what I knew now and I started a new another agency, I would probably do like a vertical and service offering and like ICP type niching down. So it'd be like we do Facebook ads for uh, pre-revenue SaaS fintech startups, right? It'd be like so specific.
Totally. I love that. How has that changed things behind the scenes, like operationally for you?
Oh, dude, it's so awesome when you stop. Like every every service line is a different like SOP, and things can change and update and blah 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 blah. So like just back when we were doing marketing, which essentially was email campaigns, right? And then advertising, which was paid ads. It was like we had an SOP for Klaviyo and whatever other platforms. We had an SOP for Facebook. We had an SOP for Google. We had an SOP for Pinterest. We luckily didn't do anything on TikTok because we had stopped doing it before that invaded the airwaves. But so like you had all this crap you had to keep up to date and write, and this like knowledge you had to get out of the experts' heads. Whereas like if you're just really good at one thing, it's like your process gets so efficient and streamlined, and you can just get so much efficiency out of it just by doing the one thing over and over and over again.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Um, Talk to me a bit about the opportunity you found in partnerships.
Yeah. Basically it's just being a real genuine human and meeting people out in the world that are working in the same atmosphere as you and kind of just leading with value and expecting nothing in return. So if you think about partnerships with tech solutions, so for example, Shopify, um, they're like a huge whale and they will definitely give you a lot of opportunity if you prove yourself and meet the right people. But that's kind of like just you can definitely grow a business by being partnered with these like big whale things like that, but more than likely you're going to grow a lot faster by having more partnerships with like smaller tech companies. So for example, like we're in the Shopify ecosystem, and so there's a million Shopify apps out there and each of them are interacting with merchants all day long and their app solves one particular problem. So I'm meeting all these apps all day long and kind of like just adding them to my Rolodex. And so when you're meeting these new people, you find ways you can add value to them without giving them a client. And they're going to kind of do the same thing to you. But eventually, what happens is there will be the opportunity for a client to kind of be shared with either, if I'm talking to an app solution, it's like, oh, their solution actually solves this client's problem. You make that intro. That's fantastic. And vice versa. They're like, all right, well, this brand wants to migrate off this poopy platform to Shopify. We know Chase's team over there, Lecture Ad, does a great job, and it will come back to you. And so, like, partnerships is a lot like I don't know, this idea of like planting seeds. You just like build real relationships out there, be a genuine person. Don't try to speed run partnerships. Just like meet people, have a laugh, share a drink, buy them breakfast, whatever, and it will come back to you eventually. And so you're just planting all these seeds out there, and then eventually they grow into trees and or plants or whatever, and you can harvest the fruit of that. And that fruit is a client, I guess. This went off the rails with that analogy, but yeah, partnerships are dope.
I'm loving it. No, I'm loving it. And I really like what you said about basically just sort of giving without any kind of expectation. I mean, that's kind of the approach that I've always taken with partnerships too. Is if you want to form a partnership with someone, it shouldn't start with like a formal agreement and a contract. What it should start with is like you actually providing value to them and actually just giving them the thing unasked and be like, hey, just so you know, I've got a referral for you. Like, here you go. And if you do that enough times, you're going to have a referral partnership. You're going to have some kind of actual working partnership that's actually functional rather than just like, well, we signed a mutual referral agreement or whatever, and so things should be happening. You know how many signed mutual referral agreements I have that have resulted in zero work past both ways? Like,
Yeah, but that's probably the KPI that partner rep was managed on. It has nothing to do with so basically when I'm meeting a net new like agency or SaaS app and they want to you're like, "Oh, let's sign this." It's like, "Let's just wait till we have one and see what happens there." Like it doesn't I don't want to sign something that's it's meaningless. I also like I said, like I love partnerships. I have a document, like when I get on the call with you, it's like I have a document that will set expectations about what I'm expecting from you and what you should expect from me. So like I'll share some of that now on this call, but also like go read this document and also steal this document and repurpose it for yourself and write it the way that you guys want to think about partnerships for your business just to help set expectations. And nothing in there is like I want to get a kickback from you. Like that's the least important thing to us as an agency is like getting a kickback. The most important thing is getting like top tier support for our clients if there's ever an edge case, which there always is. They will find a way to break everything. Um, and so like that's more important and like co-marketing is important and like having a budget for events is important. Like I don't care to get too I don't want 20% of your $20 a month app. That's nothing to us. It's like I just want to, let me get a hold of somebody if something's broken. Um but yeah, there was something else in there that I wanted to bring up, but yeah, partnerships is a huge part of what I do.
I love
Oh,
how.
when
Yep.
you're on that first call, here you
Mhm.
go. We were talking about leading with value. On that first call, here's my favorite. I either ask it on the phone or I ask it in an email follow up. It's like, what is the best introduction I can make for you right now? Right. And then like somebody that's cheeky, like, well, a sweet brand that we can work with, right? But they might just be like, hey, we're looking for a paid ads expert, or we're looking for someone to look at the SEO of our website, our SaaS website. We're trying to get more you know what I mean? So there's like ways to add value outside of just a referral.
Always, yeah. I love that. I love how much I can tell you've thought about this and you've put care into it. It's really really good. One thing that I want to ask you about that we haven't really talked about specifically is your podcast and how big of a part that has been to, potentially growing your agency.
Podcast is an amazing tool, and I basically I say this to everybody, and I'll say it here. It's like if you have a service business, a podcast is an amazing way to meet cool people and grow your business. But if you are going into it with the idea of it instantly being a profitable endeavor, you've already like lost the plot. It is not going to work instantly. It'll work next year, maybe. Like you're gonna have to put some time in. One, you're gonna be an awful host immediately. You gotta put in some reps to learn how to talk, how to not say That's very difficult for a lot of
It's
people to
so
learn.
hard. All you want to do
Yeah.
is just
Yeah. I don't listen to my first episodes of the podcast at all anymore. But it's super useful for us. So I host a podcast called Honesty Commerce. And I use it we could have a whole hour long episode about how I just abuse my podcast for my personal and professional gain. But some highlights here are I have an amazing audience and reach with that podcast, which makes me, you know, typically a content production arm of your agency is just a sunk cost, be it with like time or actual investment in like a freelancer to write your blog or whatever. we have that cost with the part like we have that cost with the podcast as well. But since I have such an audience, I get that offset by actual sponsors that want their ads in front of my audience, right? So I've turned what is typically a cost into, I mean, I wouldn't say we're getting rich off of our ads, but it's definitely offsetting the cost and making it definitely worth my time to do it. Once you kind of tie that into all the other doors that it opens for me, I get to go to conferences because of the podcast. I get to speak on stage because of the podcast. I get to meet our ideal clients because of the podcast. I get to reactivate old leads because of the podcast. There's just so much you can do with it. Um, and yeah, that's just like barely scratching the surface.
It's barely scratching the surface, but I love it. So this I'm not sure if I told you this already, but this is actually something that I train agencies on. Is like agencies, like you need to have a podcast. Like it's it's great for three things. Well, it's great for way more than three things, but I like to break it down into three because it makes it very, very simple to understand. Right? It's great for relationship building, which becomes lead gen. It does. It's great for content creation, which agencies suck at for themselves. We're absolutely terrible at creating content for ourselves, and it's great at compounding authority, which again most agencies are just really, really bad at. And it also forces you to, like, starting a podcast. It forces you to take a stance. It forces you to choose an angle and to stick to that angle, so people actually know why they listen to you in the first place.
Yeah,
And so
the first hill I died on was, and I still believe headless is stupid.
well, I don't hear nearly as many people talking about it anymore, so you might be right. Um, it's like it has kind of a forcing function. Like I'm always talking to agencies, and I harp about it a lot on this podcast. Of like, you should have core values because you need to know who you are. You need to know what you believe, what you stand for, and then that'll help you to define like what sets you apart. It'll help you to define your positioning, help you to know who your ICP is. It helps you to like know how you're going to run your operations based on who you are. And it's really important if you're starting a podcast to know who you are. So it kind of has like a forcing function of like, who am I? What do I believe? What are the kinds of things that I say, the kinds of things that I don't say, etc. So it kind of has like these downstream benefits that most people don't even really think about if you actually put the time in to be smart and actually try to create a podcast strategically rather than just I'm gonna be the next Joe Rogan. No, no, you're not. No one's gonna listen to you if you just have like an endless stream of randos on the podcast versus like you said, like you get to talk to your ICP every single day. So do I. It's perfect. It's literally how we grew Social Commerce Club. Before it was Social Commerce Club, when we had a previous agency, literally when we did not have a proper sales team, they weren't strong. We had a steady flow of sales, and we realized after a while, oh, they're not they're not booking sales calls. They're inviting people onto the podcast first, and then once the relationship has been built, then they're picking up the sales conversation afterwards and skipping all of that additional stuff at the start where Jordan just gets to build rapport with them. Oh, okay. The podcast is just it's a cheat code. You obviously have to invest time into it and you have to actually be strategic, but it's definitely a cheat code for people who are willing to put in the work.
Yeah, and then just to kind of like be direct with the listeners here, you also have to remember you have to be okay with where people are in that conversation. So you may get people to opt into being a guest on your show, but they aren't ready for your service or are not interested in your service, and you need to just be fine with it. Don't be aggressive. And it's planting seeds. We've had people on the podcast that came back 3 years later and asked us to do a migration for them, right? So it's like it's more about planting seeds and expanding your surface luck area than it is about a direct response thing. But when it works, it's awesome.
100%. It's well, at the end of the day, it's that like relationship building piece. You get to skip past all of the do I trust this person? I don't know if I trust this person. Well, you get in a podcast and we're friends now. We're friends now and we're talking about stuff. And unless I do something really, really stupid the minute we stop recording, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep that dynamic with you the next time I see you.
Yeah, and it's going to once I learn what band he's in and he learns what band I'm in, then we're not going to be friends anymore.
You're going to love it.
No, I probably
Yeah.
will.
I hope you do. Well, Chase, was there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Oh, you know what? I think that just one other thing that I was thinking about during this was just hiring. Just to revisit something there, especially I think a lot of the listeners, I think all agencies are small businesses. All agencies don't have a large team. Uh, and when you're hiring for something, and I think this is a way that people like to cut corners at the beginning, is they try to like get the cheapest result, right? Which isn't the way to think about it. Like you need to hire someone, A, you need to hire someone that's done that job before, because I'm assuming you're hiring something to get to delegate something off of your plate. And if you can't do it, you also don't have time to, like, if you don't have the time to do it yourself, you also do not have time to train somebody to do it as well. So you need to hire someone that's done it before, and you can just delegate that outcome, and now it is actually off your plate. But if you're trying to, step over a dollar to pick up a dime by, getting someone for pennies on the dollar, you're going to train them up with your perfect SOP, and then that never works. It never works. I've tried it before a few times. I failed. I realized it was dumb. So when you're hiring for a specific outcome or job or position or whatever, make sure they have done that thing before. And I even tell this to clients. I'm like, hey, you want someone to help you break this new product that you're launching on its own standalone website, like it's a brand new brand. Whatever agency you're talking to, if they don't have a case study that shows they've done this before for a similar product or in a similar market, they don't even get time with you. Like, make sure that they're not learning on your dime, and make sure that they've done the thing before.
Absolutely. Oh man, I got absolutely roasted on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago when I made a post about how, it might be different for anybody else, but when I'm hiring, if I'm hiring you, I'm trusting that you have a proven track record of recent experience doing this thing. And so you should either be coming with case studies or a portfolio or some kind of proof. LinkedIn did not like that. I ended up just taking the post down because people were stalking me to my personal my personal social media and like leaving comments, and I'm like, all right, but I still stand by it. You haters, if you hear now, I still stand by it.
That's
Um,
so funny. Yeah, I think that when you're hiring, hire the most expensive person you can afford. That's like a very big clarifier there.
yeah, that is good advice. I love that. Well, hey Chase, I think that we probably could have chatted for at least another hour, but that's just not the format of this podcast. So maybe we'll have to have you on for another episode or two. Where can people find out more about you and Electric Eye?
Yeah. These days, I basically just post a lot of nonsense on LinkedIn. You can search Chase Clymer on LinkedIn. You can find me there. We drop episodes weekly on the podcast honestecommerce.com. The main format is interviewing brand founders, kind of like how I built this for e-commerce stores. Then we drop bonus episodes about every other week as well. So a lot of awesome content there. And then if you need to find an awesome agency to help migrate a brand to Shopify, redesign that store, or you want to get into CRO and increase your conversion rate, your revenue per session, average order value. Those things are all in our wheelhouse. Strategic front end design, electriceye.io.
I love it. Thanks, Chase.
Thank you so much, Sean.